What is the sound of one fist punching? What is the sound of the IronCast? Greetings, students. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz!
Hey, Mozz. Always glad to have you back. I did my little switch there from the learned teacher to the carnival huckster. Because, I don't know if we actually said that in last week's episode or not, but one of my favorite characters that I just found out is a character in this is the Ringmaster, who is played by Craig Garrity, who is the guy running the show in the ring. And when you click on the Ringmaster for this, it actually takes you to all of the times the Ringmaster has appeared in Marvel properties, including Superhero Squad, and I believe he was in like Spider-Man, a couple Spider-Man cartoons too. Ringmaster, of course, being the master of the circus of crime, and a superpowered hypnotist. Although we don't see that here. But right now, I'm really wishing he gets a top hat with a little spiral on it, because that would be awesome. Maybe we'll get that in Defenders. Which is, I believe it started filming, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, well, actually, I think that's already filming, and I know that they just started filming Jessica Jones Season 2 now. So we're
in New York City.
Yeah, well, we're moving forward, man. So, hey, if you are an extra in the New York City area and want to be on Netflix show, they're hiring. I have lots of friends who find themselves in these things because they're all serious actors too, but they do extra work because that's how you pay the bills. And you remember? I
don't know if you work with him. Josh used to work with him. Andy Schneeflock.
I don't know him off the top of my head, but I know Josh.
Was in, Luke Cage.
Oh, he was in Luke Cage. Oh, yeah. Awesome! So there we go. We should get him in to interview him at some point. Tell us what it was like to be on set that day, and if they fed the extras. That's how you know it's a good production, if the extras get food. Okay, tonight's episode, 8 Diagram Dragon Paul. Season 1, Episode 4, Danny makes a shocking discovery and a radical pricing proposal. Colleen's extracurricular activities go viral. Ward issues a stern warning. Directed by Miguel Sapochnik. Written by Scott Buck, who gets the credit by credit, and of course written by Scott Reynolds with our great staff writer Dwayne Worrell. Yes, he was on the last episode too. So now, last episode, Danny gets kicked out of a window and falls to his death. And so most of this episode is just Danny's funeral and everyone being sad. No, actually, not quite so much, because he does manage to do a classic superhero thing where he reaches out and grabs something just before hitting the ground.
Right.
And, does a little Gymkhana there. Still falls and hits like the 20th floor of the building instead of the actual sidewalk. But it's enough to take him out.
Right.
But they bring him upstairs and he comes to, and Wendell's there.
Yeah.
And we get the whole reveal here because, Madame Gao was in last episode because he does do the kneeling in the glass. Because here, when he's talking about the deal he made with the hand, he shows him his hands, which are cut up from the glass, and says, "This is the least thing they do to you."
Yeah.
And we find out that basically, he died. He did die, because that's part of the thing. You have to die in order to come back from the dead.
Right.
And I like the fact that he said 3 days later he rose, which is a neat piece. I wonder if the hand actually does do the 3-day thing. I wonder if that's part of their shtick. I'm not sure if that's ever been codified, but from right now, I'm thinking, hey man, everybody rises after 3 days. That's the rule. You don't want to be presumptuous in your rising from the dead. We basically see that Wendell is saying, all is forgiven. We're all going to work together. You can help us defeat the Hand. And we actually get, and this is a point we made last issue, about being this Kung Fu master where, Wendell is telling Danny, yes, I'm sorry?
Harold.
Oh, Harold. Oh, I keep on calling him Wendell. That's, I'm thinking Wendell and Ward. That's why. So Howard, I screwed up his name all last episode. So Howard tells him that he's, the thrall of the Hand. Mm. And Danny's like, wait, the Hand is real? Like, yes, I've been trained for the last 16 years to be the sworn enemy of the Hand and to defeat the Hand, but I didn't know the Hand was a real thing. I thought that was like, one of those esoteric ideas. You must defeat the Hand, The Hand is evil, and we fight evil, So I thought that was actually a neat thing. And again, goes to this idea that we were discussing last episode about Danny is a trained fighter, but he's never really been to battle before. He's never really, fought. He's never been, in a place of chaotic fighting. He's always been training to be a fighter. Mm. And now what Danny needs to master to become the true Iron Fist. And right now he has the Iron Fist, but he is not the master of the Iron Fist yet. What he needs to do is he needs to come to know that the war is constant all around us. We are out of the academy and now we're on the battlefield. Mm. And now is the time where he's either going to, he just graduated top of his class at West Point, but now he's probably the greatest soldier who ever lived, but now he's in actual war. And will he defecate himself, or will he be shown to be the great warrior that we all hoped he would one day be? Mm. That's the question.
What's interesting here is that Harold is obviously playing him, but Danny doesn't see it coming. And for what it's worth, who does see it coming is Ward. And as they're walking out of that meeting, it's really interesting what's happening in that elevator where he tells him to be careful, and he's like, I can deal with the Hand. He goes, no, with Harold. Mm-hmm. What is the motivation there? Is he softening up? Is he relenting to it and saying, hey, you are my brother or my friend, whatever, and he's just, having a moment of being a real, genuine, nice guy for a second?
Well, I think I think it has a lot of levels. I think the first level is that, he does have this history with this guy. Yeah. But more to the point is his father is again choosing someone else to be his, right? And that, I think that is the thing that bugs him the most about Joy, is that Joy was made to be the get your hands dirty one. Joy was made to be the businesswoman. And he was just sort of he was meant to be the face. Right. There's a great, I don't know if you ever saw Gallivant. Mm-mm. Oh, okay. It was a little thing on ABC. 2 seasons. It's a lot of fun. It was a musical comedy set in like sort of a Lord of the Rings kind of fantasy medieval world. But and you have the evil king in there who's basically I'm the king because my dad was the king and now I'm the king. That's how government works. That's the system we have. Don't knock it. And
now, did it bother you that Harold gave in so utterly, completely to Danny and saying, give him everything, give him the 51%, give him blah blah blah, and like I just thought it happened too easily, and I think Hogarth mimics that sentiment also later in the episode.
Well, yes, because that's the thing. His 51% isn't that useful to him if he's dead. And let me put it to you this way. Howard is a thrall of the Hand.
Right.
If the Hand is destroyed, then he's no longer a thrall. Right. If Danny is destroyed, his 51% doesn't mean squat. So he's in this spot where it's like, well, and he's probably also thinking that, what, Danny's a rube, which he is. Yeah. And this is the thing, and that is this thing about Danny. It is important to remember, Danny is a rube. He just wandered out of the mountains of Tibet, and he's been around, he's been in some fight clubs, but he is also a guy who, for the past 16 years, has had Zen literally beaten into his head. This idea of, possessions are not what we fight for. These things are not that important. You even have this whole thing where he's going, why is everyone so concerned about money? It's like, why is that important? Which, makes that point that, had people just treated Danny decently, all of this would have been avoided,
Yeah.
Because he really doesn't care about the money. He has all the money you can want, but he is looking to rid himself of want. See, want is anathema to him. And having all the money you could want doesn't help you rid yourself of possession to the world. You see, because he's all about achieving that next level of enlightenment because he is a warrior monk. And this is where he is in this storyline, is that he is a person who needs to move to that next level. That is what his idea of winning isn't even necessarily fighting and winning. It is about becoming more in tune with the universal chi. Being in tune with the energy that ebbs and flows throughout the universe, And yes, part of that is he gets there by, kicking people's butts, but it is less about the butts he kicks as the minds he opens is how you could break all that down. But anyway, yes, but so Meacham gives him everything he wants, and we see that he is, and he's in his luxury penthouse because that's actually because Hogarth had said that, they keep a place for clients they have to keep under wraps, and so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's where he goes back to, and he's sort of like hanging out there, and Joy is like, this is, it's pretty nice digs you got here. And he's like, yeah, very different from the room I had at the monastery. I just had a dirty mat on the floor, and I had to do all these things left and right. And then there's a knock on the door, and again, he is caught off guard, because again, he is only trained for formal combat. He isn't yet a fighter. But of course, once the fight starts, he is ready to fight.
Yeah. And I gotta say, this fight scene was really impressive. I really, really dug this fight scene.
Yes. Oh, no, it was fantastic. And, why the Yakuza are not using guns, but, sure.
Yeah.
Because it's cooler to use axes. Last episode I mentioned the Conan the Barbarian that I love.
Yeah.
And one of the things in there was that Conan never uses a gun because he prefers knives. He doesn't trust guns. And actually his view on guns is they're basically just fancy slings. It's like, why would you use a sling, throwing a little pellet at someone when you could use a knife, and just cut them. And that's his take on it, And, you see him, like, basically whip out knives and throwing them at people because he's, Sumerian warrior. And, but then, of course, all the other barbarians in his crew start carrying swords and knives, too, because they're emulating their leader. So you can go in this idea that, these Yakuza all wield hatchets. Which again becomes this thing that, that's what the Yakuza do. They wield hatchets. I don't know if the Yakuza actually do wield hatchets, but that is now in the American zeitgeist. And so I can guarantee you right now there's some Yakuza out in Japan going, man, we gotta get ourselves some hatchets. Those guys look cool. It's like some young Yakuza out there in Japan going, getting my hatchet on, So yeah, these guys got their hatchets, and of course we see the Iron Fist smashing hatchets, which is cool.
Yeah.
And we see him basically fighting the heck out of all of these guys.
Yeah.
And the guy says, we got to get back to the Golden Sands, and then they leave as Danny takes Joy back, and that's going to lead to something else, because I think before we get to that, we do get Colleen and her student.
Right.
Because, his student's like, man, you were like the best thing to ever happen. And she's like, I fought for money. There is no greater shame. Which I'm sure there are a lot of greater shames. But yeah, but this is her code. This is what she tries to live by. She has embraced the Bushido code. She has embraced this idea that, the noble samurai, the noble ronin, has this code of honor that by which they live. And, we fight for protection, we fight for mercy, and we do not fight simply for money. I'm sure that was written into the Bushido Code because, of course, most actual samurai fought for money.
Yeah, they were hired mercenaries.
Of
That's all they were.
Yeah, well, that's why you could hire 7 samurai. Akira Kurosawa, he knows what the story was. You got a samurai, you got a warlord you don't like, you hire 7 samurai.
Yeah, samurai was just a bunch of Eric Princes with swords.
Exactly. Anyway, so they but even though she does say, this is wrong, you should never do so, she does go back.
Yeah. And decides she wants to fight 2 opponents.
Oh, yeah, which I love.
And people who listen to this show and are also fans of mixed martial arts will notice that Jay Hiran makes another appearance in a Marvel show here. He was also in Luke Cage.
Oh, yes. Which one was Jay Hiran?
He was the black guy.
Oh, okay.
There's a white guy and a black guy she was fighting. The black guy is Jay Hiran. Accomplished mixed martial artist. But again, one of the bigger problems I had was she puts him in a move called the omoplata, which is meant to affect your shoulder joint. And it's done she has his arm wrapped up around her leg, and the way you're supposed to do it is get closer to the guy's head in order to pop the shoulder. Now, she takes the opposite approach by arching her back, lifting her hips, and squeezing. That does nothing in that hold. So, again, that really bothered me.
Well, I guess if you're going to have a statement on that, the hold she's doing is one that has to look good and not actually pull the guy's shoulder out of his arm.
Make it look good, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I was actually more bothered by the fact that after he gets his shoulder ripped out of his arm, he's actually still pretty much fighting at the same. He's still swinging that arm. There was
to be fair, there's an old fighter, Forrest Griffin, who was the first Ultimate Fighter, and the story goes with him. He was in a fight, and a guy put him in a hold and broke his arm. They literally broke his arm, and he continued to fight and knocked the dude out and won the fight by knocking him out with his other hand. Well, so there is precedent.
No. I'm not upset. If you're watching it, he sometimes swings with the arm that's supposed to be dislocated. Oh,
yeah.
So there was a continuity. So, I mean, there are, like I said, these issues with this show. I think part of that is, to be honest with you, I think that they may have blown some of their budgets. And I'm wondering if there's some budget consciousness in this because I'm looking at a lot of the things. Some of the things they're doing that are cheats for B films, and as both an aficionado and a maker of B films, as well as a star of a B film, Stalag 69, Blitzkrieg Escape from Stalag 69. Look it up, kids. You can see Charlie at his most Nazi-ish if you are so interested. I do not endorse Nazism in any way. I just played a Nazi on TV or on a movie. But anyway, there's a lot of cheats you do because you don't have a lot of takes, and that's one of the things I think. So, like a lot of the jump cuts we saw in the first episode that really bothered me. Some of these fighting things that don't quite look right. But there are only going to be things you're going to notice if you're, like you, Mozz, a mixed martial arts aficionado. If you're a guy who really knows his stuff, you're going to notice this. Other people are going to say, it's close enough. It's good enough because we're getting what we need from this scene. We don't need that. So I do think that maybe there's some budget consciousness here. We don't know how much Netflix has. We don't even know if, the thing about Netflix is it's not a publicly traded company. So we really have no idea if they've ever turned $1 or if they're basically a giant Ponzi scheme. No, I mean, not for nothing. A lot of IT startups are, in fact, Ponzi schemes to some extent. Because the idea is that you just keep on putting money in it and you keep on getting valuation. And if you eventually have a product that makes money, then you make it all back. Right. But when you talk about the valuation of a stock, they can borrow against that, but they're basically borrowing on the idea that, well, someday it's going to be worth something.
Right.
It's basically like if I were to buy, Action Comics #1 in 1938, and in 1939 sell it for $1 million. Yes.
Game.
Yeah, it will eventually be worth $1 million. But you don't know that in 1939. You don't know that it's going to get there, But that's valuation. And so it's possible that, they've had a lot of hits with Marvel. They have to keep on making these Marvel things because this is now part of their brand.
Right.
But at the same time, they may be saying, you know what, let's save more of a budget for the Defenders.
Mm.
And let's maybe give Iron Fist a short shrift.
Mm.
Because maybe no one but Clark Gregg really cared that much about Iron Fist. But he is a central character to Power Man and Iron Fist and the overall story we're trying to tell. So we got to get him in there,
Fair enough.
I think, honestly, had they had their druthers, they might have preferred to do a Punisher series.
Oh, man, I would have, too.
Well, they are doing the Punisher series, and they would rather invest in the Punisher series than necessarily the Iron Fist series.
Hey, if that's their logic, then I am totally on board.
Yeah, well, they're going to do the Punisher series is slated, so that is moving forward. So we'll be here for the Punishing Cast, the Punny Cast. Let's get punny. Okay, our penile enhancement cast. There we go.
Oh boy.
using the as in the penile system. You see, it's,
okay.
which is about punishment.
Stop dilly-dallying. Will it really mighty my penis, man?
Yes. Anyway, so there we are. But I mean, I think that is what we may be seeing there. When we do see these little parts of the show that we go, that's not really as good as it could be. That's not as good as it was in Luke Cage. It's not as good as it was in Jessica Jones, and definitely not as good as it was in Daredevil. I think with Daredevil, they just put all the money on the table.
Yeah.
Because they knew that was their big bet. And if they could pull off Daredevil, they were going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah. And what an unlikely superhero to pin it all on and for it to work.
Oh, I think Daredevil was like the perfect superhero to pick.
Really?
Because first off, Daredevil is very superhero. He's got a costume, he's got a moral code. At the same time, he is doing this very anti-hero, dark hero, I'm fighting people, but I'm, there's a lot of depth to it, and there is a lot of very classic modern hero bits to Daredevil.
Yeah.
And
I would have imagined that it would have been really hard to pull off because the glaring thing that people stumble over first is the fact that he's blind and can still fight. And that's a hard thing to make come across as real or believable. And man, did they ever accomplish that.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting? There are people who who have been blind for a very long time, who actually have used a bit of echolocation to get a sense of their surroundings. There's actually a very famous young man who went blind at a very young age, who had very either crazy or highly supportive parents who basically said, "You want to ride a bike, son? Nothing's going to stop you." And, crashed a lot, but also learned to basically get a sense of his surroundings by the sounds around him, by creating sounds that he could hear where it was. And when they've done tests on people who trained in this and studied this method of echolocation, they found that basically what they've done is they've reawakened their visual cortex through their ocular senses, so that the part of the brain that sees is what's active, but it's the data is coming from their ears.
Right. They profiled that young man on Superhumans, that Stan Lee show a while back, didn't they?
Yes, they did. They also had him on. He was on That's Incredible and This American Life. And, the guy actually kind of gets annoyed sometimes because he kind of became kind of a sideshow. And he was like, he started doing this to actually, because he wanted other young blind people to understand, hey, here's a skill you can learn when you're young. And if you learn it when you're young, you're going to have this skill that's going to allow you to basically live a much more normal life. But, it has as yet not been largely adopted by the educators of the blind. Because unfortunately, the sighted educators maybe don't even think about it. And the blind educators have been blind for their whole lives and are too old to learn it. Because it's the kind of thing you've got to learn when you're very young to really get that high level of adeptitude at it. So... But hopefully with podcasts like us spreading the word that there is this thing, it will gain more acceptance. And, of course, maybe with the success of Daredevil, that pedagogical skill, that teaching of that skill among disabled students will get more popular. We'll have to see. Anyway, yeah. I'm sorry. Did you have anything else you wanted to say there?
No.
Okay, yes, and moving on from there, let's get back to the actual show, because we're talking about everything else on this show, not the show itself. So Daredevil fights the Yakuza. He doesn't know the Yakuza yet. Part of you, when you first see it, think, oh man, the hand came for joy. And then you find out it's not the hand, it's the Yakuza, and then he goes to confront the Yakuza, and they say, hey, are you is this about the hand? And they're like, oh, shoot, we didn't know the hand was involved. Never mind, and basically what it is that they were taking it out on Joy because the guy that they had to deal with the pier, that's how they're getting in their heroin or what have you. And, basically, the Yakuza is like, oh, well, we'll teach her a lesson. And
or as Danny puts it, use her as collateral to renegotiate that deal and get the peers back.
Yes, but then once they find out the hand's involved, they're like, "Oh, our humblest apologies, sir. We had no idea that was your peer." And Danny's like, "Why don't you? Maybe you can help me fight the hand." And they're like, "Dude, we don't fight the hand." That is not what we are doing here today. We are the Yakuza. We are a criminal organization. The Mafia doesn't go up against Hydra. We don't go up against the hand. It's, having that line between, real criminality and superhuman criminality, that's an important thing. Although, of course, as time will go on with the Kingpin, that line's going to start to get more and more blurred. And that will be exciting when we get to that point. Okay. Let's see here. So
you also get that board meeting, which is pretty important.
Oh yes, the board meeting, which is great because we get kind of a reverse. What I like to, that scene reminds me very much. There's a scene in Heaven Can Wait, where because in that one, the body of the billionaire has been taken over by the football player who's in love with this activist who's always protesting the billionaire. And they introduced the idea of dolphin-safe tuna in this, But in that one, he says, look, it will charge 3 cents more a can, and we'll let everyone know that, hey, we're the tuna that doesn't kill dolphins, And it is played in that moment as this thing of, we can spin the PR on this to make this a valuable thing. Even though it may not be the best business decision.
No, I felt like the writers they didn't have to go so far as to have Danny say, sell it at cost. I mean, he's got to have a basic semblance of understanding that the people that are working hard to get this drug to people that need it, they deserve to be paid as well. So basically, eating all this, it just, that part, again, it was just a little bit of logic.
And what they're doing, because they do call that out, because the first guy, the black guy at the board meeting, says, that'll fund a lot more research and look good on our bottom line. And not for nothing, they're only talking about a 1,000% markup from price, from cost. But when you think about, but that's manufacturing costs, not all the other costs, plus, of course, the very real fact that they have to get this built, they have to get this out there, and they have to develop the next drug, And $50 a pill is not an insane amount for a pill in a for-profit pharmaceutical industry. And, and as they make the point, that this is mostly money that's going to come from governments and agencies to make sure that no one is denied this drug. Because, yes, it's going to save a lot of lives, but he's like, oh, no, you can't profit from this. And what they're building into this is this naivete. Or not so, it's this, because it's this idea. He is naive by our standards. In truth, he is enlightened. In truth, he is just a man who is saying, if I have the power to make the world a better place, I must do that, not because it is in my profit, but because it is the right thing to do. It is the right thing that I should give this drug to people. And, of course, that's great, but but that is not the operating principle of the world. It maybe should be, but it is not. And that is what Danny has to learn. But, the point of the matter is that even, Danny does not really run Rand. Danny is not Tony Stark.
Right.
Danny is Bruce Wayne. Danny doesn't run the day-to-day of Rand Enterprises in the comic books. He has people to do that. Possibly, I have to look it up. Possibly Joy Meacham does that. I don't know. But, other people run the day-to-day. He gets the profits and he deals with it, because he's got his money to fund his superheroism, but he is not a guy who runs a business the way that Tony Stark is, and I'd say the way that Bruce Wayne is, but Bruce Wayne doesn't run his businesses, or like the way that Lex Luthor does. Lex Luthor is both a villain, or he'd say a hero, and a global industrialist. Danny Rand just wants to gain enlightenment. He has all this money, which everyone is very happy he has, but to him, he'd just as soon, have his dirty mat back, in the corner of the room, That's all he needed, It's nice having the indoor plumbing, not having to drag those jugs of water back and forth, but, it was good exercise. They got him out in the fresh air. But yeah, but that's that. And Joy tells him, maybe you shouldn't rub your big 51% penis on the room when you want to make us do the right thing. It's great that you want to do the right thing. This is probably not the battle to fight, but of course you get in this Ward basically saying, I'm going to undermine Danny. And again, the problem is that everyone only has 50% of the information, because I think from Ward's perspective, even it's like, why do we even care about the Hand? The Hand is not interrupting our business. Yes, they're telling us to buy this thing, but on our bottom line, it's not that bad. And let's face it, if the Hand is so powerful, maybe they're going to make us even richer. And the worst part of it, like the only thing they've asked of us is that, I have to see my dad, and Joy gets to not see our dad. So from his perspective, it's like, yeah, the Hand's kind of been a jerk to me, but Joy got off pretty good. Yeah, it's you can understand Ward, and you get the reality that the reason why Ward is having such a hard time, everyone is having a harder time, is because Harold wants to be the one in control.
Right.
And he doesn't want to delegate, and he doesn't want anyone else to have all the pieces. Because he fears, and possibly rightly so, he fears that if his kids had all the pieces, they would just, toss him out. Because he's kind of a jerk. So, and that is that. But we do see that he has a real love for his daughter.
Yeah.
Because when Madame Gao basically kidnaps him to give him a reward for securing the pier, what she shows him is joy.
Joy holding up an ice pack to her face.
Yes, and then he's like, who touched my daughter?
Mm.
And then we see, it says, if this humble servant can ask one more favor. And then we get basically the Yakuza called out by the Hand. And the Yakuza was like, hey, Hand, so nice of you to stop by. We were just talking about that horrible, that funny misunderstanding the other day. Ha 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 ha. Sorry you wanted to buy that. Why you didn't just come to us and ask? We would have said here for free. You know.
And well, I mean, the Hand did spare all of them. They only, to their credit, they just wanted the one guy who hit her.
Yes, and who delivered the fatal blow?
Now, did you see that come? Did you know that was going to be him?
No. I thought he just asked them to do that. I was not expecting that he was going to be in the car and take off the mask.
Yeah. That was a great scene.
It was a great ending. It was a really powerful ending. And, you know, at the ending of that, that's what made me go on to start watching the next episode, which has probably the best open of any supervillain plotline I have ever seen.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it is just perfect. I mean, every concept of a villain you can imagine, it's right there. And it's like, oh, beautiful. I love what you did there. I love exactly how you can say it, and maybe there's a little bit of a nerdery to it that is only to me, in the sense that it is, well, what I'm putting this, that it's a nerdery to a male sensibility of manipulation. But it's really beautiful. It's great. Watch the 5th episode as soon as you can, Mozz. And then, of course, at the very end, we get to see Danny's training, and we get to see Danny's chest. And on Danny's chest, we see the dragon.
Right, and it's also in that little box that gets delivered to him.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, because he gets the little box, and the little wrapper says, the paper says, the answers to which you seek are here. And he removes it, and there's another little piece of paper in there folded up, and it's got that same little dragon symbol on it that looks like a question mark.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That is actually and that comes up in the next one. That was actually introduced in the second season of Daredevil.
Really?
Yes, that is the symbol that was on the heroin packets that Madame Gao was selling. And that is one of the dragons, and the dragon with the wings is the dragon of the Iron Fist. Because in order to achieve the Iron Fist, he had to defeat the dragon in the comic books. But but the dragon on his chest, that tattoo, which actually isn't even a tattoo, it's just burned into his chest. Oh. That is, at least in the comic books, that is the source of all of his. That is the source of the Iron Fist.
Interesting.
Yes. So that was awesome. That was a great bit of fan service to anyone who knew about what we were looking at, and that was beautiful. And next week you are all going to join us back here, hopefully after you have watched the 5th episode, which I hope you just went out right now and watched and said, "Oh my goodness, that was such a great open." I haven't actually seen the rest of the episode, but trust me, the open is great. Title of next week's episode is Underleaf Pluck Lotus. All of these things are meant to be moves, like, you know, punching styles, fighting styles, or specific moves. This was something that they used to do in the in one of the more recent Iron Fist comics, which is every time that they would draw the stance, they would say what that stance was. And so there was always things like this. They did, the same writer went on to do with Doctor Strange, where they do the same kind of thing, where like that's the invocation of the Feltine flames or something like that, But it's a great made up comic book martial arts moves. Underleaf Pluck Lotus. But that is going to be next episode. And before that, Mozz, if anyone wants to reach out to you and tell you how excellent your knowledge of mixed martial arts are and why you are really the best man to have on this podcast, where can they reach you?
Well, they can reach out to me via email at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
Very good. And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Now, students, our time of learning is at an end. As we walk on that road to the horizon, to Kunlun, a road that never ends, for the path to enlightenment must never end.